Alex appears in a normal city street, wearing clothes that look a bit off, carrying a small backpack, and looking around like everything is both familiar and strange. When people pass by, they barely notice, but Alex has eyes full of urgency. It's the kind of look you'd have if you knew that, in less than a week, the world would change forever. And that's exactly what Alex believes. A global event is only days away, and if something isn't done fast, we'll all be in serious trouble. But we're in Riverfall City, a bustling place known for its busy downtown, bright neon signs, and coffee shops on every corner. While it seems ordinary on the outside, it's about to become ground zero for a worldwide crisis. Some folks say they've noticed unusual weather patterns, stronger storms, sudden temperature drops, and floods in areas that never had them before. Others talk about how local officials have been acting nervous, holding late-night emergency meetings behind closed doors. But none of these rumors have made it to the headlines yet. Most people go about their day, sipping lattes and rushing off to work, not realizing they're standing on the edge of something big. And in the heart of the city, Alex steps onto the sidewalk, fully aware of the countdown that has already begun. What nobody knows is that a massive environmental disaster is set to strike. A rare chain reaction in the Earth's atmosphere threatens to trigger widespread storms that will tear through entire regions. Crops will fail, coastal areas will flood, and panic will spread fast. At least, that's how Alex tells the story. Alex's future is a place where this disaster was allowed to happen, where people didn't have the knowledge or the will to stop it in time. It led to years of chaos, food shortages, and conflicts over resources. Generations grew up never knowing the kind of calm morning we take for granted today. Some roads were swallowed by rising waters, and entire cities had to be abandoned. That's the future Alex comes from, and coming here is a desperate last chance to rewrite history. When word first spreads about a stranger warning of an impending global crisis, most folks shrug it off. We live in an age filled with all sorts of stories and tall tales, and social media makes it easy for rumors to appear and vanish in a flash. But Alex doesn't hide. Alex starts speaking in public squares, stepping onto makeshift platforms in city parks, explaining details about wind patterns, unusual solar activity, and how these factors combine to make a perfect storm. Some think Alex is a weather enthusiast with an overactive imagination. Others just roll their eyes and walk away. But a handful of curious onlookers linger. They notice how Alex talks with a calm but urgent tone, how the information never wavers. There's a consistency and detail that doesn't feel like a hoax. It makes people think, wait, maybe there's more to this. One person who sticks around is a local nurse named Mira. She comes across Alex while taking a shortcut through the park on her way home. At first, she's just trying to get past the small crowd, but something about Alex's voice makes her pause. Mira can't put her finger on it, but there's a sincerity there that tugs at her. She decides to listen for a minute. Then that minute becomes 5 minutes, and before she knows it, she's asking questions. She learns that Alex has knowledge of upcoming medical crises as well, how hospitals will be overwhelmed with people injured in the storms, and how certain vaccines need to be rushed into production to fight outbreaks that no one has even heard of yet. Mira starts feeling a chill run down her spine. She's used to dismissing wild theories, but this time, she senses that Alex might not be a crackpot. Something about the specifics, the thoroughness, the emotion behind those eyes, makes her realize this warning might be real. The next day, Mira invites Alex for coffee at her small apartment on the outskirts of Riverfall. Alex sips the hot drink like someone savoring a luxury not found in the future. Over that modest coffee table, Alex explains more about what's coming. In the future, storms aren't just storms. They're like unstoppable monsters that go on for weeks, devouring farmlands and destroying roads. People eventually learn to adapt, living in fortress-like structures and always on the move to safer grounds. But the heartbreak of losing entire families, entire cities, leaves a scar on society. For every safe haven built, hundreds of people are displaced. Resources become scarce, and conflict intensify between areas that have supplies and those that do not. From Alex's perspective, returning to this time is more than just preventing a disaster. It's about giving people hope in a world without those deep scars. Mira, convinced that this is not just a wild story, starts making calls to friends in city government and in local media. She tries to set up meetings for Alex to talk to those who can make a real difference. But here's where it gets complicated. Government officials are wary of doomsday predictions. They've heard them before, and they can't act on every single alarm that comes their way. Plus, there are scientists on staff who say the risk of such a disaster is low, or at least not as immediate as Alex claims. It becomes a dance of trying to prove credibility. Alex shares diagrams, complex predictions, and even knowledge of certain upcoming minor events, like a small earthquake in a nearby region that's set to happen in 3 days, just to show that this information is real. Little by little, some officials begin to see that maybe, just maybe, they should listen. Meanwhile, time is ticking. According to Alex, the storms will start forming in less than a week. The damage might not be immediate, but once it begins, it's unstoppable. That's when our travelers start running into all kinds of barriers: bureaucracy, disbelief, apathy, and plain old fear of looking foolish in front of voters. Despite these roadblocks, Alex presses on, and so does Mira, determined to help. They set up small community meetings in school gyms and local cafes. They talk about stocking emergency supplies, preparing shelters, and creating quick evacuation plans for people in flood-prone neighborhoods. Some communities embrace the advice, but others roll their eyes or laugh. It's tough telling people to change their schedules or set aside resources for something that might seem far-fetched. Yet Alex persists, remembering the empty neighborhoods of the future, the shattered windows, and the haunting quiet of abandoned streets. If there's any chance of avoiding that, every ounce of effort is worth it. On the night before the storms are predicted to gather strength, Alex receives a surprise call from the city's emergency committee. They've looked at new satellite data, and something unusual is definitely happening with ocean currents and temperature spikes. It's not exactly the perfect storm Alex described, but it's not normal either. The committee is spooked and wants to take precautions. That same evening, they hold an emergency broadcast where the mayor addresses the city, warning people to stay vigilant. Residents are asked to fill their cars with gas, stock enough water and food for at least a few days, and listen for further updates. This is the first major victory for Alex, but it doesn't feel like a reason to celebrate yet. If the predictions are true, tomorrow might be the last normal morning Riverfall City will see for a very long time. When dawn arrives, the sky is heavy with dark clouds. The wind doesn't blow gently. It roars like a distant freight train. People who used to dismiss the warnings are now anxiously glued to their windows, radios, and phones. By midday, the clouds are swirling, and an eerie stillness settles over the city, as though the whole place is holding its breath. Then it happens. The wind picks up speed, and the first wave of torrential rain hits like a curtain dropping all at once. Rivers begin to swell, roads turn into raging streams, and emergency sirens echo across the city. This is the moment Alex has been preparing for, the moment they feared more than anything else. Mira, who has been volunteering at the local hospital's emergency command center, is fielding calls nonstop. People are reporting flooded basements, power outages, and trapped neighbors. Despite the chaos, the city is coping better than Alex ever saw in the future's archives, largely because folks took some early action. It's not perfect. There's still damage and fear, but shelters are open, medical teams are on standby, and emergency routes are clear of abandoned cars. In Alex's original timeline, unpreparedness led to gridlocked roads and widespread panic. Now, there's still a sense of alarm, but it's organized. People are working together to help each other. And that single difference changes everything. At the height of the storm, Alex gets a call from a frantic city official. One of the major levees protecting a nearby coastal town is on the verge of failing. If that levee breaks, the ocean could surge in, flooding not just that town, but areas far inland. The repairs need to happen now, during the raging storm, or countless lives will be lost. The official is begging for advice, since no one predicted the surge would be this violent. Alex, recalling the grim details from the future, knows exactly which weak spots need to be reinforced. Even though it sounds insane to send repair crews out in this weather, it's the only shot. This becomes the pivotal moment. Crews of engineers, city workers, and even volunteer construction teams band together. They drive out in heavy vehicles equipped for rough terrain, guided by the precise instructions Alex provides. The scene is nothing short of heroic. People in rain-soaked gear, struggling against lashing winds, hooking ropes to keep from getting washed away, welding braces onto the levee, and packing sandbags faster than you'd think humanly possible. And all this time, Alex is perched on a radio station at the emergency center, watching monitors and coordinating with frantic clarity. It's a sight that might bring tears to your eyes, seeing humans push themselves to their limits to save strangers. Everyone is running on adrenaline and hope, trusting that this bizarre visitor from the future really does know the best way to prevent total disaster. By the time the sun begins to set, the storm doesn't let up, but the levee holds. Water slams against the reinforced structure, but it doesn't give way. In the future, this levee broke, drowning hundreds and forcing thousands more to flee inland. But not now. Now, it stands as a fortress, and the townspeople gather on higher ground, hugging each other and cheering. Some try calling loved ones to say they're safe, while others simply collapse in relief. A wave of gratitude washes over the city, but it's blended with shock. They realize how close they came to devastation and how a single failure could have changed everything. Late that evening, the storm system finally weakens. The clouds slowly disperse, leaving behind broken branches, scattered debris, and huge puddles glistening under the streetlights. Cleanup crews get to work. Emergency services continue to help those who need it, and the city's power companies scramble to fix outages. But the bigger story is that, thanks to early warnings, proactive efforts, and the knowledge from one traveler at a time, the worst outcomes never happened. Buildings can be repaired, and roads can be cleared. Lives that would have been lost are saved. It's not a perfect ending. Some neighborhoods still took major damage, but it's a far cry from the post-disaster world Alex grew up in. The next day arrives with clear skies. It's like nature is taking a breath, letting people see the bright sun again, shining on damp pavement and fallen leaves. The city still feels shaken, but not defeated. News crews are out everywhere, and soon everyone hears the story of how some traveler gave crucial information that helped the city prepare. They interview Mira, who speaks passionately about how vital those warnings were. Officials who were originally skeptical now praise the unusual tips that guided their decisions. Citizens who once ignored the time traveler story are left wondering if what they heard was real. And in the heart of all this noise, Alex steps back from the spotlight. After all, the mission was never about fame. It was about saving a future that might now be kinder, safer, and more hopeful in the following days. As relief efforts continue, people start reflecting on what happened. They see how crucial it is to pay attention to warnings and how important it is to work together. They talk about how sometimes solutions come from the most unexpected places and how we can't always rely on the same old thinking if we want to handle new challenges. Some folks begin pushing for bigger changes, such as better infrastructure, stronger environmental policies, and a culture that listens to early signals instead of dismissing them. The city council even proposes a new readiness initiative, jokingly nicknamed the Alex Protocol, designed to respond swiftly to unusual threats. They never directly say it's named after a mysterious traveler, but everyone guesses AS for Alex. There's this quiet moment on a rooftop in Riverfall where Mira finds them gazing out at the skyline. The power is still flickering in some parts of town, but you can see lights burning again in most windows. It's a sight that wouldn't have existed in Alex's original future. There would have been darkness, abandoned streets, or at best, a few makeshift lanterns guiding small groups of survivors. Alex confesses to Mira that growing up in a harsh environment taught them how much people can lose when they fail to act quickly. Every early memory was full of worry about the next storm, the next shortage. To see a future saved, even if it's not completely free of hardship, gives Alex a sense of relief and joy that's hard to express in words. People outside the city also hear about the storm that nearly destroyed Riverfall and how the community took action in time. Some remain skeptical about the time traveler aspect, insisting it's just a rumor or a creative tale that got out of hand. But many others remain open-minded. They see how unusual events can sometimes be predicted if you know where to look for the signs. Whatever they believe about Alex, they can't deny that someone or something helped Riverfall avoid a full-blown catastrophe. And that sparks a conversation about what else we might be missing What other warnings we might be ignoring in our busy lives in the days and weeks that follow? Alex keeps a low profile. There's no big reveal or final press conference. It's not like in the movies, where an otherworldly figure disappears in a flash of light. Instead, Alex simply blends in, helping with daily cleanups, volunteering at shelters, and making sure people have the resources they need. Some folks think Alex might be getting ready to return to the future. Others believe Alex will stay in this timeline, choosing a life that's safer and more hopeful than the one left behind. But if you ask Alex, they'll say, "I'm already home." In some ways, returning to a calmer moment in history has given Alex something more valuable than just saving the world. It's given them a second chance at a life that wasn't possible in a destroyed future. Before long, talk of new storms dies down, and the city recovers more and more each day. People keep telling the story of how a single traveler from another time might have saved them from unimaginable disaster. It becomes a local legend, a reminder that you never really know who the heroes among you might be. Some folks share videos online, showing Alex speaking at those early gatherings, outlining the crisis to come. Others share pictures of rescue crews reinforcing the levee during the storm. The comment sections explode with discussions about fate, second chances, and how one individual can shift the course of history if they have the courage to speak up. Now that you've heard about Alex and how a crisis can be turned into an opportunity for unity, think about what it means for our own lives. If one traveler with a dire warning can make people take action, imagine what we can do when we all decide to plan ahead for future challenges, whether it's environmental, social, or something else entirely. Sometimes the key is simply listening. If the residents of Riverfall City had ignored Alex until it was too late, the story would have ended in tragedy. But they chose to pay attention, ask questions, and work together. That's the real moral here. Even if we don't have time travelers knocking on our door, we do have experts, data, and intuition warning us about various problems. Maybe it's climate change, maybe it's other global threats, or maybe it's something in our own backyard. The point is, doing nothing is never the right call, but there's a certain thrill in thinking about what time travel implies, how the smallest changes might ripple through entire generations. But perhaps the biggest lesson is that we don't need a visitor from the future to nudge us into doing the right thing. We can start changing our destiny right now, just by being more alert, more prepared, and more compassionate. Next time you see a strange report or hear an unusual warning, will you dismiss it outright? Or will you at least give it a second thought? Will you remember that a simple action like stocking supplies, building better infrastructure, or speaking up could end up saving someone's life? If this story of Alex made you think, wow, this is exactly what I needed today, then hold on to that feeling. Let it inspire you to take a closer look at what's happening around you and what might be around the corner. If there's one thing we can learn from a traveler who crossed the boundaries of time, it's that the future isn't set in stone. We all play a part in shaping it, whether we realize it or not. And who knows? Maybe today's small actions will become the foundation of a future where storms don't turn into global nightmares, and where communities rise stronger after every challenge. Time travel might still be a topic for science fiction, but the desire to protect what we love is very real. When people come together with a shared sense of purpose, miracles can happen. So share your thoughts about how you'd feel if someone like Alex showed up in our world. Would you believe him? Would you want proof? Or would you jump in and help just in case it could prevent a tragedy? Let's keep this conversation going. If you got ideas, if you're wondering about the kinds of solutions that could make a huge difference in times of crisis, drop them in the comments. And if you want more stories that make you think about where we're headed and what we can do about it, check out the next video on this channel. We're diving deeper into the big what-ifs that shape our lives. You might just find the spark that helps you see the world in a whole new way.